Hey, welcome to another Sunday of another stream happening over here on the Clark YouTube channel. Hey, David. Hey, what's going on? How you doing this Sunday? How are you doing? I just got finished watching. Well, I didn't watch it all. I had to turn it off. I was watching the national championships and my team lost. But so I had to turn it off. Sports will get me hyped sometimes. I gotta remember that I'm not part of the game, so I can't get hyped. But sometimes us Americans. But thank you for joining us this wonderful Sunday. If you guys do not know, my name is Devon Clark. I'm a local realtor in the Metro Atlanta area. I appreciate everybody who has subscribed to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please don't be afraid to tell me where you are watching from. How did you get over to the channel? And if you did make it over to the channel, please think about staying over here, subscribing to the channel, and liking it as well. He said, he said, doing great. Sorry to hear about your team. Yeah, my team lost. Luckily, I didn't bet no money on anything. So I kind of figured they wasn't going to win, but I was hoping that they would win. But I already knew from who they were going against. So I was watching the women's NCAA championship, and I root for South Carolina. And I knew they were going against UConn, which is a great program. And I just knew that they were not going to be able to compare to them. But, you can always hope and see what happens. But nonetheless, let's kind of get into the article. Again, if you're watching this on the replay, don't be afraid to actually like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment below, bring your friends and family over here if possible, so we can grow this particular YouTube channel. And we can talk more and more about the wonderful world of real estate. So we're going to jump into, so I kind of wanted to talk about this. I know it says it's over, and what I kind of mentioned it's over is more to when it comes to the housing market of 2020, of 2021. That housing market is over. A lot of people still believe, and there are some sellers who still believe that, I'm going to get the prices that I want on my house. My next door neighbor in 2020, 21 got $600,000, even though our houses should have only been worth $400,000. They got $600,000, and I want $600,000 now. And we have to understand that the market has changed, and it's over. It's over. You might be lucky. It might be get an anomaly. Something might pop up, but it's over. All the crazy stuff that's going on, the unpredictability of this market. As you guys all know, some of the tariffs have been placed into effect. However, I read somewhere in regards to, and I don't know where I read it at, I got to find it, but somewhere it said that the tariffs hadn't yet been placed on Mexico and Canada at the moment. I think it's just been placed on China. And I could be wrong. If anybody is watching this live, please let me know in the comments if I'm wrong or not. Or if you're watching on the playback, you can always correct me as well, just so I can make sure I got the information correct. But I think what I read, and I was trying to pull up that article to find it, but I can't find it. Of course, you read something and then it disappears and you can't find it again. And so I believe that they had said that the tariffs had been placed for China. However, they hadn't been placed yet on Mexico and also Canada. But I also believe that Mexico said that they weren't going to go tit for tat with the tariffs that the Trump administration placed on Mexico. That instead they were going to kind of let it slide per se. So again, I read that somewhere. If you guys can find that information, please let us know in the comments, whether live or if you're watching the replay, to make sure that information is correct, because we want to make sure we kind of give accurate information over here. So, and sometimes what I read could be wrong, so just let us know. But anyway, let's kind of dive into again this housing market. Typically, most people are looking for the spring housing market to kind of come, right? They're looking for, as home sellers, you typically want to put your house on the market around the spring. We know that if you're in certain areas, like down here in Georgia where I'm at, our spring, first of all, let me rewind. We're in the spring market, right? We're in spring now. The season of spring has sprung. We're here and we're in the spring market, right? And typically, like I said, most people want to buy and start putting a house on the market. And typically you'll get buyers kind of popping up in the spring market because relocation, because of school is out and different things like that. What David said, he said, yeah, not sure of that. who knows? It seems like things change hour by hour. Yeah, you're exactly, David. I don't know. Things definitely change hour by hour, season by season, year by year, day by day, week by week. It's always ever changing. So, yeah, things are all over the place. The administration's all over the place. It's just a mess. It's just a big old clump of mess, right? So let's kind of dive into this particular article talking about more homes are finally hitting the spring market. Will buyers take the plunge? So I don't know about your housing market, David, or anyone else that might be listening to this live or watching the replay. I don't know what your housing market is currently doing. I know that down here in Georgia, our housing market is definitely seeing more things kind of pop up on the market and certain areas. There have already have been several houses that have been sitting on the market down here. I've seen them, these same homes last year, 2 years ago. They've been sitting, they've been coming on and off the market. Some of these people have actually been, sometimes it's home sellers think that, it's the agent's fault that the home is not selling, so they'll switch agents up. And sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes it might, it might be the agent, sometimes it might be the home seller themselves having unrealistic goals, or sometimes it might just be the market in itself. Eventually, everything does sell, right? However, we have to remember that we saw it in a very unnormal market in 2020, 2021, 2022. At 2022, we got to the highest ever when it came to the home prices in the United States of America. I believe it was 2022, 2023-ish. We got to one of the highest as far as when it came to the housing market, as far as prices in America. And now things are starting to cool off in certain states. A lot of this information has to do with the Sun Belt states because we have more inventory kind of popping up on the market. Some of these other states might not have it. So it's always wise that if you are in a different state, even if you come over here and join us at this channel, and I appreciate your support, remember that you always want to talk to or consult with a local realtor or real estate professional in your area to actually see what that true market is doing where you currently reside, right? Because we know real estate is local. So what did David say? David said, I was looking at the stats today. We had our first year-over-year decline last month, where we were also named the hottest real estate market. Go figure. Wow. Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people have been moving to states like your state, Nebraska. Of course, I've seen an uptick as people move into like Ohio and all these particular like Midwest states, because I believe you're considered Midwest, right? In Nebraska, David. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I think it's because typically some of those states had like a lower price point per se as far as when it came to purchasing houses. But I don't know. I could be wrong as far as Nebraska, but I've been seeing like an uptick in like Michigan and Ohio and like these particular areas. Hey, what's going on, Dad? So yeah, so let's kind of get into the article right here when it says, again, it says more homes are finally hitting the spring market. Will buyers take the plunge? So if you're a buyer looking to buy in the spring market, or if you had goals of buying a home, hey, what's going on, Lang? She said, good evening, good evening. He said, correct. We are correct. We are in the Midwest. Okay, you are in the Midwest. Okay. If you're looking to buy in this market, let me know. Or if you're watching a replay, let me know. I said, it's springtime and for sale signs are popping up in front of homes across the country. But with so much uncertainty in the economy, it's an open question whether the spring market will be hot or not. Let's check out the forecast. They said mortgage rates and home prices are both high. So this article was put out on April 3rd. We are now with April 6th. If you guys don't know, mortgage rates are still considered to be high. However, they have softened. So I'll kind of get into that in the next article. With the tariffs kind of hitting the market, it kind of created a plunge in the stock market. And when it created a plunge in the stock market, some of these investors who typically buy in the stock market, they kind of ran over to the bonds, to the treasury, and started buying some bonds, which in turn allowed the mortgage rate to kind of dip a little bit. So we got down to, I think it was like 2 days ago, we got as low as like 5.95. I saw for like FHA. However, it did tick back up, but we got lower. So it's kind of been bouncing all around because of the uncertainty of the economy, because of what's happening. Things have just been going wonky. It says it's uncertain it's uncertainty not the cheapest time to buy a home. The average 30-year mortgage rate is now 6.65%, down a bit from January, but still pretty high. So I think they might be saying this 6.65 is if you're doing conventional. I believe the conventional is around that 6.65. But we're going to check into that after, like I said, after we read this. But I think conventional is around at 6.65, if I'm not mistaken. And again, all those factors as far as where your interest rate can be at, it's a big factor. It goes by it's the credit score, debt to income ratio, how much you're putting down. All these different factors weigh into your interest rates. So you might see this 6.65, and you might think like, oh, can I get it with a conventional per se? And realize that when you go and you hand in all your paperwork or your information to the lender or whoever you're deciding to borrow money from, and they might say, hey, you get a 6.8. Depending, because it's a lot of factors that go into that determines your interest rate. And these rates that I'm showing you guys today are based off of like different factors, and it's like a national situation as far as like the medium or what they kind of are seeing. It says down a bit from January, but still pretty high. Many analysts predict that mortgage rates will linger around this level for now, especially since the Federal Reserve has indicated it's unlikely to cut interest rates until later this year. So yeah, so if you guys don't know, the Feds met again recently, and they did decide not to cut any interest rates, and they're going to kind of let it linger a little bit just to try to see what happens in regards to the economy as far as the different stats coming in and all those things like that. It says Selma Hepp, chief economist at the real estate analyst firm Cautality, I think that's how you say it. Cautality, I think. I don't know. Lidity, I don't know. Cautality, I don't know. Says the market volatility could bring down mortgage rates. That's because mortgage rates typically follow the yield on the 10-year treasury bonds, which are affected by investor worries about the economy. That's what we kind of talked about earlier as far as the volatility and investors that had their money in some of the stock markets. They kind of, when they saw the stocks drop a little bit because of the tariffs, they kind of started shifting money over to the bonds. So again, if you guys are like really heavily into buying a house and you want to kind of figure out what the interest rates might be, it might be best to start doing research or looking into like the 10-year treasury bonds and different things like that to kind of see, different things and get more involved in economics. Because of the concerns around slowing job market, because of concerns maybe around rising risk of a recession, Hepp says. So as we all know, we know that jobs have been laying people off. We know that they did report that there was an uptick as far as hiring as well with jobs within the last month per se, I believe. However, we know that people are losing jobs. We know that it's becoming very tighter. The squeeze is tighter in order for people to find employment. So it's a lot of different factors kind of eating into the home buying process. But again, what I tell people is that you're buying a home based on your readiness, right? Even though we talk about all this stuff, you guys see a lot of us, on YouTube, TikTok, social media, Instagram, wherever you find your information around real estate, whether it be the news, whether it be the media. At the end of the day, do not base your home journey, I should say, on information that you kind of gather from these platforms or from the media or whatever. Take what you can take, read as much as you can read, go about how you want to go about it. Because you don't know, no one knows when's the best time to buy a home, when the best time to sell a home. And if you don't know, if you don't try, you won't get any results. So, but this is just making you more kind of digging into a little bit more to kind of see what's going on, right? It says, but there are other factors keeping mortgage rates high, among them inflationary policies like the tariffs. Another deterrent for buyers is the elevated cost to buy a home. The median home price has shot up 47% in the last 5 years. And again, we know that houses are very high right now currently to buy. We know prices have shot up again because of the pandemic situation. Houses have drastically shot up in price. And again, like I'm saying, as far as the decline when it comes to Georgia, we are seeing a decline, and depending on what areas you're buying in. However, we do have some unrealistic home sellers still out there. We have some people who are still pricing their house like as if they were in a pandemic still. So you do got some cuckoos, some cuckoo birds out there. Like what they say, they're nuts. Okay. It says good news for buyers. More homes are hitting the market. Last year was the slowest existing home sales market since 1995. it wasn't that people didn't want to buy, there simply wasn't much for sale. So yeah, so like last year, the year before, a lot of because of uncertainty too, right? You got a lot of home sellers that want to sell their home, but they're like, I don't know what's going on in the market. Some of these home sellers might not have a mortgage. Some of them might have a low interest rate as far as their mortgage, but they still want to buy, or they still want to relocate, or their job might have, called them and said, you need to come back, and different things are happening, or family situations. So some of these people might want to get out of their houses, and some of them might have to, like if they're relocating, they have to leave. So they're selling. If something happens family wise, they might have to leave. Somebody might have passed away. They might want to sell. So you have people that have to sell due to situations. However, there are people that sit on the sidelines that want to buy, but there just hadn't been enough inventory. And I seen that with buyers that I was working with. I was working with one buyer. She recently decided to rent though, but I was working with her for a year. Another buyer worked with him for a year and a half, and there just wasn't enough. I should say it was inventory on the market, but it wasn't like quality or good inventory, something that you could kind of want to see yourself buy-in. And then on top of that, with the inflated prices, is like, why am I going to pay this much for this type of house with these type of structural issues, with this type of, with these roofs not being up to date, with foundation issues, with cracking, with old homes that are not kind of kept up to date. And so, even though I'm a fine believer where it's like you got to start somewhere too. However, you also got to make sure if you're going to buy a house, make sure it's structurally sound. You like over time, yes, you can go inside, you can renovate it, you can do the different things to it. But in an economy that we're living in now, if you want to try to get a little closer to what you want, because these repairs might cost more money going forward with these inflationary rates and different things like that. Again, you have to move how you want to move when it comes to buying a house ultimately. But are you going to get everything on your checklist? No, but you want to kind of meet it halfway somewhere. Like I said, I started now. Before, when I first started doing real estate, I did it, but then I had took my foot off the gas and stopped doing it. But like I said, now I went back to where I give buyers homework, and I know a lot of people probably don't like it, but I just give you homework because I just need to see, I want you to write it out for me, and then I go off of what you write off. Because at the end of the day, you're buying a house. I'm not buying a house. I'm helping you and assisting you and educating you and advocating to help you buy the house. But I also want you to write down to see clear what you kind of are looking for, and know the do's and the don'ts, and the wills and the will nots, and the needs and the wants, so you can get a more of a clearer vision of what you ultimately should make a decision on if you're buying a house. The big question now is whether a frozen market can begin to thaw. Signs suggest things are starting to shift, with more inventory coming on the market. Again, like I said, down here in Georgia, depending on where you're buying at, we have been seeing more inventory pop on the market. So that is definitely happening down here. I don't know if it's happening in Omaha with you, David, but it's definitely happening down here, because I know up north in like Jersey and all those areas, I keep hearing people saying that the inventory is very squeezed up there in certain states. And of course, our states in the Sunbelt states, Georgia, Florida, Texas, all these other states, a lot of home builders are building a lot of new construction. So now we're seeing these new construction communities. We're seeing a lot of inventory kind of sitting in these communities because they're being built. They're finally coming to completion of being built. So it says in February, there were 17% more existing homes for sale compared to last year, followed by a 10% increase in new listings in March compared to a year ago. And again, like I said, the increase in inventory, I can even say too, right now I'm helping a home seller sell their house. And when you look at the market, it's technically, because of the inventory levels, that market is technically a buyer's market. So we've been having a couple showings, and people have been, saying good things about it, but no one has kind of put an offer in because they can look around and see more houses. So Lang said, oh, thank you, Lang. She said, good information. Thank you. Yeah, so they can kind of see more houses. So it's like they're taking their time. They're just making sure that if they're going to spend this much money on buying a house now, that they're like, okay, well, let me see what else I can get for my buck. Let me see what makes sense for this, because this might be a house I might see myself in for, so many years going forward. I might not be able to leave or move out of this house. So I want to make sure if I'm going to spend $400,000 plus or whatever, or $300,000 plus, or even $200,000, depending on, your financial situation, people are like, can I afford this mortgage bill? And can I afford to be able to effectively pay this off going forward? And then also, can I see myself living in here for a while? Because I don't I don't want to invest, I guess, so much energy into these larger prices as far as homes. So it's something to think about as a buyer. Let me know if I froze you guys, because on my end I'm frozen, but let me know if I'm froze. All right, so it says in the last couple years, as mortgage rates climb, there's been a concern about a lock-in effect, which we kind of talked about earlier, as far as some of these home sellers who bought when the interest rates were very low. They kind of felt like they were locked in, or there was a lock-in effect because they bought so low. Even if it was homes that they didn't like, they might have overpaid. Lang said, "You're fine." Okay, thank you, Lang. Thank you. They might have overpaid for the house just to try to get in the house because they felt like, oh, I want a house, and there was so much demand going on as far as home buyers buying house, like buying and overbidding and everything. Like I always tell people, we all got to take accountability of us causing the housing market to go up, because I feel like it wasn't just. I feel like a lot of it was led upon by corporate investors, but that's just my sense. And then from there, everyday folk kind of joined in the whole situation as far as buying these houses and causing these prices to go up. But that's just my sense on it. But everybody got their own opinion, y'all. Causing homeowners with low interest rates to never move. It says, but the recent uptick in listings suggests that as time goes on, people do end up moving, which is true. People end up moving. It says more listings should translate to more sales. Return to office mandates are also spurring some folks to move closer to cities now that they've got to be in office several days a week. Increased inventory will put buyers on better footing, giving them more options and more leverage. For sellers, more competition could mean they have to be more flexible on price. That's already starting to happen. Over 17% of active listings included price reductions in March, according to Redfin.com, the highest for any March since 2016. So Redfin.com is saying that they're seeing a lot of price reductions since 2016. So that's a good thing for a home buyer, right? If you're trying to buy a house, if you feel like the houses are too high, is the price reductions like $100,000, $200,000? I haven't seen that yet, unless it's like $1 million property per se. I've seen those big type of cuts. If it's like a lower property, I'm gonna say under 300,000. I've been seeing price reductions where people might be cutting 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. You might get lucky where some people might cut 50,000, depending on how long the house has been sitting. But I've been seeing reductions. I've seen people even cut 5,000, $1,000, $100, depending on their circumstances. So there are definitely reductions happening, depending on your market, right? Economic uncertainty clouds forecast. Jeremy Messon, 40, is trying to become a homeowner. For the past year, he and his wife have been looking for a home in Fairfield County, Connecticut. Again, I don't know what that market is like. He said a few weeks ago they offered 161,000 over a home's asking price. They offered 161,000 over a home's asking price. This is a no-no for me. I don't care how bad you want a home. I'm gonna tell you as a home buyer, and of course, it's not about me, but I am gonna say that's a lot to be putting in for an offer over the price. You better make sure. I would just I better say y'all better make sure this crap appraises. David said, "Wow." I said, "Wow" too. I'm like, you better make sure that stuff appraises, baby. It says, but their bid still wasn't enough. They offered over 161,000 and they still lost the bid. This week they lost again. They were one of 17 offers. Theirs was one of 17 offers. Mason says, or Messon, I don't know if I'm saying this wrong, like last name right, says they may decide to keep renting for a while. So again, that just depends on what market you're in. That's why I'm telling people, like, in my market, I'm in one of the Sunbelt states, and my market prices are dropping. I haven't heard nobody realtors talk about getting several offers or multiple offers anymore. I've definitely heard about maybe 1 or 2 offers coming in. I haven't heard about 10 or 12 or 5 or whatever. And a lot of people are adjusting prices down here. And at this point, like, even a house that I have currently listed with a seller on the market, we had 2 open houses. We didn't get anybody to come to them at all. No one showed up at the open houses. Like I said, our showings have been a little slow. We've only gotten about 4 showings. We've been on the market probably for 3 weeks now. 4 showings. So we are going to come to the seller decided that they would like to possibly adjust the price I agree with us kind of adjusting the price down a little bit. We hadn't heard any feedback from the agents or their buyers in regards to the price. They've all given us wonderful feedback, but nobody put an offer in. And like I tell people, sometimes it can be, and it's not all the time, but sometimes it could be like people will say, sometimes people will say, won't say what they're thinking. So they might say, "Oh, this is so beautiful. This is so wonderful. I love it. I love it." And then you're like, "Okay, well, then put an offer in." And it's like, "Oh, well, you know." And it's like, "Okay, well, is there anything mad with the price?" "Oh, no, the price is okay." But secretly, they might be thinking like, "Yeah, the price is $5,000, a little bit more than I want to pay, or 10,000." You know, but they don't want to tell you. You know, sometimes, you know, and is that the case all the time? No, but sometimes that's the case where people don't want to tell you what they really think or feel. And it's like, please, we're asking for honest feedback, honest information, right? What's going on, MH08? He said, a friend of mine in Denver got burned by a jerk like that. Guy offered $1 million over driving up the property taxes for everybody in the hood. Wow. Yeah, see, that's another thing too, about increasing the property taxes. When people are out here overbidding or doing these like paying so much more for a house, if the whole neighborhood, you know, is only really worth 300,000, and somebody comes in and offer, and it's now buys house for 500,000, you just literally are messing up people's, excuse me, possible property taxes. Because when assessment comes again and they reassess, depending on where you live at, depending on your county, down here in Georgia, most counties assess every year. So when they reassess it, now that could possibly drive up your property taxes. Everybody else is that, and that could be the reason too why some people are starting to sell. Like, it's one community around the corner from me, and I'm pretty sure that's the reason that people are selling. Like, a friend of mine actually bought in the community around the corner from me, and their houses are over there selling for like 800 something $1,000, and just 2 years ago they were selling for like 500, and just 2 years before that they were selling for like 200, or well, no 400, and then a year before like 300 or whatever. So like all those people that bought that house maybe back in the day for like, let's say 200,000 ish or 300,000, the houses are now worth 850,000, $900,000. Property taxes are going up. So like these homes, like these sellers have been like popping up their homes in his particular community quickly. And my friend, I don't know if he ever joins the live or if he watches his back, but he know who he is. And I always tell him, because he's also a licensed realtor, I'm like, boy, you better go and door knock your neighborhood. This is your subdivision, and you know, go and tell these people and let them know, because they are literally, like, when I tell you they are out there putting their homes on the market, it's crazy. MHOA said it was a short driver from Baton Rouge. Wow. They came from Louisiana and did all that. Wow. To Denver. Wow. So yeah, so let's get back into this article. Then we're gonna get off of this, because he said he was talking about he was a little nervous because of the tariffs. Others may be making the same choice. Pending listings, that is, homes under contract, fell 5.2% year over year in March, according to the data from Redfin.com. So they're saying the pending sales fell under. They saw more houses that were under contract pending. I have been seeing more down here in the Georgia market, where we're seeing a lot of active under contract and not really pending yet. So if you guys don't know, typically down here in Georgia, they'll put something acting under contract if there might be a contingency in place, if there might be an uncertainty that they feel like financing could possibly fall through, or different things like that. The agent might list it active under contract. And sometimes when they list it like that, as an agent, if I see that, and if a buyer is interested in seeing that house and it says active under contract, I'll call the agent and say, hey, I know that your listing is active under contract. If there's some uncertainty there, if there's still some space for, I have a buyer that kind of wants to check it out, can we still look at the house if possible? Or do you guys think you're about to go pending within X amount of days? And sometimes the agents say, yeah, please go look at the house. We're looking for possibly, you know, any other offers, just in case. We're not sure if this is a strong offer. However, there is some interest, and we put it active under contract. And then sometimes you get some agents say, oh, no, we're good. You know, due diligence has passed. Everything looks good to go. And if you want to just submit a backup offer, you can, but we're not allowing people to view property, X, Y, and Z. So it just depends. So if you see, maybe, I don't know how it works in other states. David, how does it work in your state? But down here in Georgia, if you see an active under contract, typically I would say, you know, send it to your realtor, and then ask your realtor just to call the agent to see if there's a possibility to still see the house, to still see if they can possibly get in there to look at the house. And then when it goes pending down here, a lot of realtors, even though I always tell people that even if it's pending, you should, you know, I still say people can get into space prior to the end of due diligence. Like once we hit in the due diligence. Typically down here in Georgia, we don't allow people as pending. We don't allow people to kind of look into the house because we know it's a solid offer. But you can put up a backup offer in. But yeah, but I always tell people, call them. We can see in our terms at the bottom when due diligence ends. Call the agent before that ends and say, hey, how's the deal looking? It's looking good, looking smooth. If not, I have somebody that's interested in looking at the house. Could they take a look at the house? He said, guy next door is trying to get $500,000. I hope he takes a bath. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He must be these must be some of the delusional sellers that are still out there. Like I was saying when I first went live, I said some people are still stuck in the COVID market. So what I said, he said also, the young man said, also adding to the uncertainty is the cost of home ownership that used to be pretty steady, like home insurance or HOA fees have skyrocketed in some places, and that can make buying a home feel like a more of a gamble than you're used to. And so they keep talking about, and then they kind of go into the right down here. It says on top of everything else, how agents are paid has changed. So they talk about like the payment change as far as agents. He said he's a delusional flipper. Yeah, the flippers are the worst too. The flippers are worse, or sometimes not worse, or are worse than some of the home sellers, because these flippers, it's like, do you know your numbers? Are you guys looking at the numbers? Are you looking at the ARV? Are you looking at the ROI? Are you actually writing the numbers down? I feel like some of these people do not. I feel like what I'm noticing is that you get some of flippers that, and it's always interesting when you get ones that have been in business for a long time that still are like delusional. But I'm seeing like a lot of new people kind of enter into like this whole investment thing, this flipping thing, and then you talk to them and they don't know anything about the numbers really. You're like, well, what? Do you know the numbers? Do you know the numbers? Do you understand? Not only do you know the numbers, do you understand the current market that we're in? Do you understand the trend in the neighborhood that you're buying in? Because some people don't even understand the neighborhood. It's like, is this a neighborhood is this a sought after neighborhood? How often do homes go on sale in this neighborhood? Excellent, because sometimes as a flipper, if you understand the neighborhood and you understand like this is a sought after neighborhood and a lot of houses don't go for sale in this neighborhood, and you buy it and you flip it and you price it, you might get lucky and be able to price a little bit higher than what that market is kind of telling you. But because it's a market that neighborhood everybody wants to be in, it's not that much turnover in that neighborhood. You might get a buyer that's going to be a little delulu and buy it at that price point. But again, I realize that most of these flippers, especially that buy down here in Georgia, a lot of them don't live in the state of Georgia. They're online looking at stuff, and they don't even really know the market. They don't know the current market trend. They don't know the neighborhood. They don't know the desirability. They don't know anything. And I'd be like, all right, y'all cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, as my mom say. David said they put paint and carpet and think it's worth 100 more. Exactly. They think it's worth 100K more because they do paint and carpet. They all think like that. They don't put a new roof on. They don't update the systems. They don't do anything. They just like, okay, let me paint and carpet it. They don't care about the foundational. They don't care about the structural situation. They don't care about the electric, the plumbing. They're like, okay, carpet and paint the outside, put a new pretty little door on, and create some type of curb appeal from the outside, and it's like $100,000 more. MHO, he said, fine. Friend of mine was a flipper before it was cool. He knew what he was doing and did excellent work. And Steve, we are looking for flippers like that. Like, don't get me wrong, there are some great flippers still out here, and some in Georgia as well. But when I tell you the flips that I've been seeing lately, I'm like, oh, what the heck is going on? I'm like, and then I go and I'll be nosy, like, when did they come in business? And then I go inside like I'll go inside when you kind of register your business, I forget what it's called. And I'm like, this business was registered as an LLC in 2023. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, you must have just went on and took a YouTube class real quick. Ain't nothing wrong with taking YouTube classes. I'm just saying, like, oh man. This is kind of talking about the whole thing as far as how agents are paid. We kind of know about that. I don't want to dig deep into this. Maybe we'll do another live digging deep into that a little bit more. And let's kind of get into the what else they're saying in regards to the market. He said, guy next door did a full reno, put up an addition that blocks my city view. Oh, dang. And cut all the trees, blasting me with sunlight. Wow. I'm interested. Well, I don't know, but I know like in Georgia, right? Before you can cut trees down, an arborist has to come out. If you're, cutting trees down, arborist has to come out and check and make sure the trees are not alive or blooming or different things like that. And then if they are, you can only cut down. I think it's like a certain amount you can come down, and it has to kind of all be vetted by the arborist. So that's crazy that he just came and cut all the trees down. He didn't read the neighborhood well. Yeah, most flippers don't read the neighborhood well. That's the thing. And then you talk to them on the phone, or you'll have a conversation with them. And when I tell you, people, they be telling you like they be like, I know this, I know that. I'm like, okay, well, all right, go ahead. You be like, all right, I don't want to argue with nobody. I don't want to argue. Okay, just do what you want to do. After a while, you be like, do what you want to do. I don't want to argue with nobody. I'm okay. Because sometimes I feel like it becomes so demanding too to argue with people. Well, not really argue. I guess you could say like talk back and forth and tell people like what's going on. And I realize now, and I don't know if it's because a lot of people keep hearing things about, oh, you know, realtors, or you should work with a realtor, you shouldn't talk to realtors. And because of social media and because of online stuff and because of, you know, outside of the news and everything, a lot of people be like, oh, I don't want to, you know, I know more than the professional, which is crazy. And I keep having, I'm like, to me, I'm like, there's good and bad people in every profession. And I tell people this all the time. There's a good doctor, there's a bad doctor. There's a good realtor, there's a bad realtor. There's a good lawyer, there's a bad lawyer. And I'm like, so you might know a little bit more than the bad lawyer, the bad realtor, the bad doctor, the bad whatever, the bad teacher, whatever. You might know a little bit more than them because they're bad at their job. But when you barge or you talk to somebody that's good at their job, a good realtor, a good doctor, a good teacher, a good lawyer, typically you're not going, they might know a little bit more than you. They might know what they're talking about because they are invested in their career. They're invested in what they do. They love what they do. They genuinely look into stuff. They genuinely research things. They genuinely go, you know, to different like community, not communities, but different events, get more knowledgeable, take classes, do stuff. So it's just crazy that everybody nowadays thinks they know more than a professional. So what David said, he said, when if flip is done right, it does improve the community. Exactly, David. When a flip is done right, it does improve the community. He said he also put local flavor into the flips. For example, on the coast, install small seashells as cabinet knobs. Oh wow, that's cool. See, like really, you know, knowing what's going on, understanding what people might be looking for. Like that market might be something, you know, if it's a coastal type of thing, a beachy area where people like that type of flair. That's pretty cool. See, I love when people kind of put those intricate details into creating homes and understanding the market and understanding the community, getting a sense and feel like what people feel, you know, might go for. Flippers want curb appeal and touch up instead. It's about money. Yeah, a lot of them just want to give us, you know, a lot of them just want to put in some quick repairs and jump in and jump out and move on and then try to sell it like David said, want $100,000 more. And then they be sitting on the sideline. Well, why is it not selling? Well, this is why, sir or ma'am. Because it says, so right, this article says a tanking stock market hits home buyers right in the middle of spring buying season. This is by Mansion Global. I never heard of this particular website before, but I thought this was an interesting article. We'll kind of breeze through it real quick because I don't want to take up too much time in this article. It says storm clouds have formed over what was shaping up to be a sunny spring selling season for the housing market in the U.S. Momentum began to build in the fall after a brief respite, I think I'm saying it right now, and mortgage rates and continued through the winter into 2025. And let's get down here because it's talking about the same thing we kind of talked about. I wanted to see if I think I had read it and talked about this, talking about economic concerns grew as administrative process, talking about the tariffs. We know about that. We don't want to keep touching on the tariffs. We already know about the tariffs. Okay, right here it says the tariffs were larger and more extensive than expected, including a 34% rate on China and 20% on goods from the European Union, among many other regions. He said in response, markets nosedived Thursday in their worst day of trading since the largest great global stock shock, the pandemic and lockdowns in 2020. And so they basically, if you guys don't know, as we all know, the stock market, which we talked about a little earlier, kind of took a nosedive. MHOA said house across the street was flipped 20 years ago. She was a real pro, had it gutted and reno and sold in 30 days. Wow, okay, that's nice. It becomes a safety issue if a flip is done incorrectly. Some watch a few YouTube videos and now they are contractors. Exactly. Exactly. That's what people don't realize. It becomes a safety issue too. And like when I tell you down here in Georgia, how many daggone when my one buyer client, and it's just certain, and it's interesting too, in like certain communities too, you find like a lot of investors who did flips, who did bad flips down here, and they're all within like one cluster of like the same neighborhood per se. And when I tell you how many daggone houses that we walked in where the floor was it was a whole slope. Like you could take a marble and just put it down and it would literally roll down the floor. I'm like, okay, did somebody even try to do the daggone foundation, like structural issues? What's going on, y'all? It was like they was like, okay, and I know sometimes they kind of some of these papers are like, well, this house was built back in 1930, so the foundation it's settled and we can't do this. I'm like, okay, well then find somewhere to or go back and restructure it or do something so the floor is even and it's not a slope or sagginess in the floor. That's all. You want somebody to pay near $250,000, $300,000 for something that you literally just went and did took some vinyl, laminate vinyl, the one that comes in the roll, and you just sliced it down and you just stretched it out and laid it down. They didn't even give me no vinyl planking. They didn't give me no hardy plank, hardwood floors. They didn't give me anything. You just gave me some sheet vinyl laminate per se. Lane's laughing. What he said? He said, as I told my plumber, I watched 3 YouTube videos, so now I'm an expert. He got the joke. He said he didn't want to come out to replace a bathtub faucet. I never done one. When I told him that he agreed to be the backup if I pulled things up. That's funny. That's the thing. I ain't gonna lie to. I'll be on YouTube too, be thinking I'm the expert too. So I feel like we all in that boat nowadays. We all feel like I'm like, shoot, I'll be on WebMD and I'll be like, if I see anything pop up on me or if I feel some type of way, I'll be like, let me see what this says, medical terms. Ooh, I think I got this. And then you go to a doctor, they be like, you do not have none of that. What are you talking about? They be like, please stay off of WebMD, please. I'll be telling people too, please stay off of Zillow looking for a estimate of your house, please. So this kind of talks about the stock market, talks about different things right here. This talks about the stocks, so we don't want to kind of dig into that. So this is talking about Wall Street. As we all know, the stocks kind of went. Let me go down to it's talking about housing market. I think it was on here, maybe it wasn't. So this was basically talking about how like the stock market is took a nosedive, how it could affect home buyers as far as possibly buying. He said he didn't want to. Okay, we read it. He said, Dr. Google. Exactly. I'm Dr. Google. Dr. Google. Let's talk about. So I'm gonna show you guys real quick too when it comes to like with the mortgage rates as far as kind of dipping a little bit. So let me see if you guys can see this. So this was the mortgage rates, as you guys can see. And this is for conventional 30-year fixed conventional. I believe I'm in conventional. Yeah, I think it's conventional. I think I clicked on conventional. Hopefully I'm right. I think it is conventional. So this is basically showing like in June of 2024, mortgage rate daily, and how the rates were adjusting up and down. They dipped all the way down here in September-ish. Then they went back up. So down here they were like at 6.1, 6.11 for conventional. Then they went back up, and now they're slowly dipping a little bit again at this 6.6, 6.5, 6.4. And that's for a 30-year. And right here, it shows how they kind of been moving. And again, once the housing market kind of, once the tariffs were in place and the stocks kind of started to nosedive, the mortgage rates started to nosedive as well. So you have it kind of moving down. It went up on the 2nd, and it dipped back down on the 3rd, and it dipped again on what's this? Is that Friday? Friday, right? Friday, yeah. Dipped again on Friday. So yeah, that was for conventional, and then FHA. Let me see if it opened. Did it keep on the same screen or did it open up another? Okay, it kept your eyes. Okay, good. All right, so for FHA, you kind of seen the same thing too, where it was up here, it kind of bounced up here, it was down, bounced up on the 2nd, then took a dive again on the 3rd, and then went down a little bit more. So mortgage rates are fluctuating. Like I said, they're softening a little bit. like I said, at one point they were down in the FHA. When I went on here the other day, they were in. I don't know why it's not showing it, but I guess because it kind of moved back up. Before like a second, they were at like 5.9 something. So I know I was talking to one lender, and they were saying that if somebody was already under contract with the house and they had a FHA loan, they could if they could do like a float down with the rate, and they could lock in at that lower rate. Or if they had yet to lock in, they could lock in. So some people might have got lucky if everything was right as far as debt to income ratio, credit score, all those things, and they were able to adjust down to that 5.9 interest rate. Some people might have got lucky and got like a 5.9, 5.8 interest rate, depending on their circumstances. So as far as the rates kind of shifting and them locking in, but that's how the rates were kind of going. As far as that, MHOA say, by the way, the flip across the street has been owner occupied since. Oh wow! So the person who bought it never moved after the young lady, because you said the lady flipped it 20 years ago. So and they've been in it ever since. Wow, that's good. So that's been what 20 something since it was 20 years ago. It's been 20 years that this person has occupied it. No issues, no concerns. You haven't heard anything from them as far as them living across the street in that particular house, MHOA. But that's good. That means that was a good flip. That was a good flip. We don't have to read that article because that's kind of talking about the rates again. We kind of know about those rates. Let's look at this article in regards to 42 housing markets are seeing falling home prices. So there are currently, this is articles of April 30th. They said these 42 housing markets are seeing falling home prices. I don't know if you guys can guess any of the housing markets. Let me know in the chat. I appreciate everybody being here tonight live and having conversation amongst our community. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Please like the video as well to help us push us through the algorithm some more. And always come back and join in conversation live every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. And I have a wonderful real estate colleague in the live as well, which is David Matney, live in Omaha, Nebraska. Go over and give him a subscribe, like the channel, watch some of his videos, or all his videos, I should say, and help us get more eyes on the channel so people can learn more through real estate. And yes, so let me go to the article. He said, well, they did knock out a wall and put up a tarp to expand the living room. Sure, there was no permit there. Oh, so they just knocked out the wall. He said it wasn't no permit. They said sometimes people. This is what I learned too in regards to buying a house. And do I understand people's whole logic for it? Because I get it. Because you're like, I own this. This is my house. Why do I have to permit it? Why do I have to do this? Once I buy it, I should be able to do whatever I want to do with the house. But most people don't know, like you say, MHOA. Most people don't know that you have to go seek a permit to create an addition. Sometimes it's also best too to get a survey done because you might have bought a piece of land, and depending on where you live at, the survey, due to zoning requirements or whatever, or not even just zoning, but due to the plot of land you might have that you own and you're creating additions or doing anything to it, extending things, whatever, you might not, the permit, the land might not be able to allow you to do so, depending on any type of, I know down here in Georgia, we have a thing called stream buffers. So there's a certain distance you have to be between X, Y, and Z. And then also you have setbacks. So there's a lot of different things that people probably don't realize. And when they start just doing anything without correct permitting, oh, baby, when they go to sell that house, it's going to be like, excuse me, this is not permanent. And hopefully they're going to put on the listing, oh, this is a 4-bedroom. Meanwhile, in the tax records, it still says a 3-bedroom with no permitting added. I'm just making it up. I don't know how many bedrooms is in the house, MHOA, but I'm just saying people don't realize that you got to permit stuff. What's going on, Chloe? How you doing? Hopefully you're having a wonderful Sunday. Thanks for jumping on with us. I appreciate you being here. And we definitely love to have you over in the community and engaging in chat with us. MHOA say, LOL, in West Denver, a lot of things get done without permits. And unfortunately, MHOA, nothing's free. Yeah, nothing's free. So let's dive into these 42 housing markets that are sell prices are kind of falling. And it says right here, are you an investor? Let's kind of skip through that. It says the national price rose 2.1% year over year from February 2004 to February 2005, according to Zillow Home Price Value Index. That's a deceleration from the 4.6% year over year last spring. So that means basically it's a decline happening. There was basically half of the percentage, 4.6 now is 2.1%, which is a good thing for, home buyers that possibly want to buy. Depending on where you're at, prices are basically dropping. They're softening, and they're adjusting accordingly. And we are in the midst of a correction. Again, we're in the midst of a correction. Home prices are drastically too high. We're in the midst of a correction. Will they come down a whole 200,000, whatever thousand? Again, I don't think it will, depending on the price point of the house. If it's $1 million property, yes, you'll see some shift of a couple $100,000 taken off the price. But if it's less than that, if it's like a $250,000 house, you might see a shift of maybe 20,000, 30,000, 10,000 type of prices that might reduce the house, depending on where you're at. It says among 300 largest metro area housing markets, 42 markets are seeing falling home prices year over year. And they said right here, they said that's up from last month, where 31 of the nation's 300 largest metro area housing markets had falling year over year home prices. He said while home prices continue to rise in regions with tight inventory, such as much of the Northeast and Midwest, some housing markets in states like Texas, Florida, and Louisiana, where inventory has now surpassed pre-pandemic 2019 levels, are experiencing the modest price corrections. And I know you guys probably sick of me. Like every weekend, I feel like we talk about every Sunday, I feel like we talk about the same thing over and over again. But it's literally going up and down. This is how the housing market is kind of trending up and down, up and down. The uncertainty is moving everything around. It's all over the place. So I know you guys might tune in like, I feel like we're talking about the same thing every week. Can we get something different? And I want to give you guys something different too, and I want to have different conversations, but this is kind of what's happening literally every week. Thank you, David. Thank you. He said, thanks for the shout out. Have a great week. Thanks, David. You have a great week as well. I appreciate the super chat. I really appreciate you super chatting me. Thank you. I appreciate it. Anytime, I'm always going to shout you out because you're a wonderful realtor. You're a wonderful guy. And people, if you're moving to Omaha, Nebraska, you need to check David out. That's just what you need to do. These year-over-year declines are evident in major metropolitan metros such as Austin, negative 3.8%, Tampa, negative 3.6%, San Antonio, 2.02% basically, New Orleans, 1.7%, Phoenix, 1.6%, Jacksonville, Florida, 1.5%, Dallas, 1.4%, and Orlando, 1.4%. So this is where we're seeing the housing market where home prices are falling. And this is 42 housing markets seeing home prices. We see Florida, of course. All this is Florida. Let me see if I make it bigger. I don't know if you guys can see it. So you see Florida, Texas, Florida, and Georgia's in here too. They just don't mention it up here, but we're in here right here. See right here it says Atlanta, Sandy Springs, Alpharetta, Georgia, 0.7%. We are seeing a price softening and correction and reduction. What is going on? What they trying to do? Look, see, this is what I'm talking about. They trying to get me to subscribe, you guys. Said enjoy the post or subscriber. I ain't trying to subscribe, but I do enjoy the information. Yes, David, 8 p.m. Tuesday. Missed you last week. Yes, David, he goes live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And you kind of can, depend on where you're at, do it accordingly. But it's 8 p.m. Eastern time to catch David. He came on last week on Wednesday at 2 o'clock my time, Eastern time, which was a great chat in regards to military and like the military base and different things like that. So go back and check out the video, give him some likes, learn some information in regards to that PCS, I believe, PCS, right? So it says the states with the most metro areas seeing year-over-year home price declines. We said Florida, it says 20 out of the 42 markets, Texas 9 out of the 42, Louisiana 4 out of the 42, Arizona 3 out of the 42 markets, and Colorado 3 out of the 42 markets. So according to this MHOA, 3 out of the 42 markets, it's supposed to be some homes decreasing over some softening going on in Colorado. So for that flipper to come in, or for that person to come in and add and try to do that over asking price, that was just a jerk, because saying that the Colorado market is starting to see some reductions in prices, according to this article. So, but again, I don't live in Colorado, so you let me know what you guys are seeing over there in Colorado. MHOA says the market's seeing the most softness, where home buyers are gaining the most leverage, are primarily located in the Sunbelt regions, which we talked about earlier. And Georgia is considered a Sunbelt region market, particularly the Gulf region and Mid-Mountain West region. These areas saw major price surges during the pandemic housing boom, with home price growth outpacing local income levels. As pandemic-driven migration slowed, mortgage rates rose. Markets like Tampa and Austin faced challenges, relying on local income levels to support frothy home prices. I'm not from Texas, however, I do hear a lot of realtors in Texas basically stating that the property taxes down there are drastically getting out of control. And Austin, I believe, is one of the particular cities that the property taxes have adjusted upward drastically. So I don't know. Lang said, "Okay, if I can remember, I will jump on." Okay, yeah, jump on. MHOA next door guy had it on the market for $495, lowered it to $490, then took it off the market. Oh Lord! So that means that they're probably going to end up putting it back on the market, either back at $495, because they're probably trying to see if there's going to be any type of increase somewhere, or they're going to, if they were smart enough, they're probably, what they're probably doing is they're probably like, oh, let's wait for the market a little bit more, different things like that. But if they were smart enough, I would just look at the comparables, see what the market is doing, see what the home prices are doing as far as what buyers are interested. Because at the end of the day, the market is going to tell you what the home should be priced at, even outside of the whole standards, like whatever is up to what a buyer is going to pay for it. You can have that saying too, but at the end of the day, the market's going to tell you ultimately what the house will sell for, right? There has been like a couple houses down here where I'm at that they were overpriced, like they were at $600-something thousand, in some neighborhoods, but people were buying over there like for 500-something thousand, and eventually one homeowner had to adjust down to 500,000, and he got the house sold. So the market is going to tell you. So look at the data around you. It's not that hard to see. If you're looking for a timely sale or a possible quicker sale, again, you still have to wait for a buyer to come. So will it sell the next day when you price it accordingly or price it aggressively to the market? No, it's not going to sell right away. However, you might get more people looking at it, because if that's what the market's saying, you might get people that be like, oh, okay. And if the realtor is doing their due diligence and they're looking at the comparables and they're seeing what's going on in that area and that subdivision, they're like, okay, this is where the market is kind of showing us it's at right now. And so this is actually priced according to the market. This is actually a good deal for this area, for this particular subdivision or whatever. You might get more eyes on it, might get more people coming into the property, and you might possibly get an offer either at list price or whether a little bit above, or it might be a little bit below, but you might get some type of traction. But if you overprice your house and you're not understanding what your market's doing, your subdivision doing, your neighborhood's doing, could you be the 1 in a million person that might get lucky? Yes. Again, I don't know, but 9 times out of 10, I see most people kind of home sit, and then they end up doing what this person did, which take it off the market. He said he paid 250,000. Pretty sure he put at least 100,000 into it. A bit of a cheap listing is as 4 bedrooms. Wow. It said market unstable because the Trump tariffs. Market is dropping, according to Wall Street. Yes, the market is definitely seeing a correction. Let's see. So yeah, so it's basically talking about that as far as the states in regards to Sunbelt states. Down here, this is a map of the things that are softening as far as I circled the numbers of the active homes for sale. So it's showing like all the states. But right here, year over year, Hartford, Connecticut, they took a plus 0.56%. So they're not even softening over here, according to this figure. Milwaukee, they're not really softening, 4.7% year over year. Rochester, New York, 7.5%. But then when you start to come down here, you see like the softening in the Sunbelt regions, states, Phoenix. Look, San Jose in California, they're not even 7.6 year over year. Wow. So yeah, again, it's all like I said, it's all based off of the market that you're in. Um, you know, you just don't know. That's why it's always great to talk to a professional in your area. Okay, what do you say, Chloe? She said, I spoke to a lender today. Doesn't seem like the market I live in is correcting. Oh man, I'm sorry. Where you at again, Chloe? I'm sorry. I think you told me before in one live, and I forget. Um, you might be one of those tighter markets, um, and maybe it's not correcting because there might not be enough inventory on the market yet where you're at. Um, and do you see your where you're at? Do you see a lot of new construction kind of going on? Or is there new construction happening around you? I'm in San Diego, California. Oh wow, wow! And San Diego's not seeing a correction yet. Wow. Um, I would have thought that it would be seeing a correction in California, especially in San Diego, because the prices are definitely crazy. She said we definitely have an inventory. Okay, so yeah, so that's probably why. I don't know if it's a YouTuber, a real estate YouTuber as well. I don't know if she's in San Diego or not. Her name is Audrey Lambert. I watch her videos. She's pretty good as far as information and giving insight and things. She kind, she kind of dives into more helping home buyers and home sellers. I don't think she does like a market analysis of the area, but I'm pretty sure because she's, talking a lot about the market that she knows how the market's kind of trending over there. But I don't know if she's in San Diego. I know she's in California. I don't know if she's in San Diego or not. But I would definitely say head over to her channel and maybe check her out. David said San Diego is a beautiful city. Yes, it is. It's so beautiful. I'm sorry to hear that's happening over there, but yeah, I know California is very interesting. She said, thanks. I'll check her out. Thanks for always sharing all of your resources. Of course, anytime. I would say definitely head over to her YouTube channel. I think she's in San Diego, California, I believe. But yeah, so we're gonna hit on this last article real quick, and then we're gonna get out of here, you guys. I appreciate everybody being here on a Sunday. It's raining over here in Georgia, where we're rain. It's raining. So this is basically talking about it was in February 2025. NAR, which is the National Association of Realtors or Real Estate or existing home sales not keeping up with growing inventory. So basically, they're saying existing home sales lifted by 4.2% in February to a seasonality adjusted annual rate of 4.26 million. That's a 1.2 drop from February, according to National Association of Realtors. Total housing inventory at the end of February increased at 1.2 million units from 1.8 units in regards to January, up from 17% a year ago. So that's good. That means that there are more listings coming to the market because there's an increase as far as listings kind of coming to the market. As far as home sales are down. However, listings are now coming to the market. So hopefully, Chloe, you'll see some listings kind of pop up for you in this market because some people are, adjusting. They said the median existing home sales price in February was 398,400, up 3.8% from a year ago. Again, be very mindful. Like I always tell people with this medium existing price right here, because they're factoring in even these high purchase homes. So homes that are $1 million homes, or all these homes are all being factored into like the median of existing homes. It's always great to kind of go off of the median because you can kind of see where the most prices are kind of the similarity as far as the prices. So I tell people just kind of dive into that a little bit more, make sure that is the median home sale in your area. Because again, this is a national thing. This is not a specific thing. So this might not be your median in your area. It might not be 398,000. It says what happened in February, the seasonality adjusted annual rate of existing home sales reached 4.26 million, 1.2 lower than last February, despite both months averaging similar mortgage rates. Says today, NAR's existing home sales release was stronger than the annual 5.8% seasonality adjusted drop predicted by Zillow's formal forecasted models which leverages mortgage rate modeling in a suite of lending indicators such as Zillow's existing sales count estimates, inventory, pending home sales, price signals, and things like that. So right here is kind of showing you guys where Zillow kind of, I don't know if you can see it, where Zillow, Chloe said, fingers crossed. Yes, we are going to cross our fingers. We're going to cross our fingers and say that more inventory will pop on the market for you, Chloe. So it's showing like Zillow, it says February Zillow existing home sales, 216,000, down one, negative 8.5 annually. And then right here it says year over year. So it says right here, it says Zillow's existing home sales were forecast. So they were down in 2025 in February. And then it says NAR home sales forecast ahead of today's release. It was down negative 0.4% annually. So these are homes that are selling. They're saying the home sales are down. However, hopefully with increasing inventory coming to the market from people trying to sell, it will hopefully bring up those home sales. So this is just talking about the total home sales, how they have adjusted as far as throughout the time, how they went down, how you can see they went up here and then they kind of slowly went down for NAR, and then also for Zillow went up and then they can adjust it back down. So it is going to present hopefully some adjusted prices for home buyers in the future. Just make sure, again, before we get off here, make sure you guys are working with a real estate professional and really getting the information, the data, and make sure when you're buying, tell your realtor to do a comparable analysis, comps per se, search the neighborhood, ask them what exactly is going on. Like if you're buying in a subdivision, say, hey, can you pull the subdivision, see if there's been any recent home sales in the subdivision? If so, can we then look at the financial terms as far as like what have people been buying with? You can see like their financing, whether it be conventional, FHA, VA, cash. Some of them might say other, but you can kind of get a glimpse of the finances going on over there as far as what people are buying with in this particular certain neighborhoods or subdivisions. And also just make sure that the price point is right? If a house is priced at $300,000, just make sure everybody else in the neighborhood is kind of buying around that particular price point. Do not go in there. I always tell people you don't want to be the highest house bought in the neighborhood, because if things adjust down, you have no space. And if you want to get out of it in the future, you have no room to kind of wiggle out of it. And you just want to kind of see what's going on. Also tell your realtor, if so, to pull up a map and do a deep dive to see if there's any investors in the neighborhood, as far as corporate investors, things like that, just to, or just see the number of investors, like the investor count, because if investors decide to start selling off, they might sometimes sell at a lower price point because they're eager to get rid of it. They might have paid cash for it. They don't care about possibly losing any money in their house because they just want to get out of it. So that could kind of strip equity from your house as well. So you kind of want to be mindful, just look around, see what's happening in the neighborhood, and then make an informative decision that makes sense to you. But yeah, definitely have your realtor, if you are currently buying a house right now, to do those specifics, kind of look into that, understand what's happening in the market trend, the subdivision trend, appreciation trend, if they've seen any equity kind of get stripped, financing, closing costs, see if there's any closing costs that have been given in regards to purchasing, just all those little small fine details, just to see when you're buying a house, just to make sure you're not buying you're not the highest bought house in the subdivision, or make sure you're staying on trend of what's happening in the subdivision. All right. But nonetheless, I appreciate you guys joining me again this wonderful Sunday. It's always great to have you here. Thank you, Lang, for joining me. Thank you, Chloe, for joining as well. Thank you, David Matney. As usual, I appreciate you guys being here. MH08, thank you for being here. Of course, my dad, James Clark, thank you for being here as well. And anyone else who is watching the live stream, thank you. I appreciate you guys for being here tonight. And also, I appreciate the support as far as you coming back, subscribing to the channel. And if you are watching this on a replay, please put your thoughts below in the comment section. And if you need me, please reach out. Also, I apologize to people who have been reaching out. I've noticed lately, I've been getting like a lot of CEO email, like SEO search email. Like a lot of people like trying to do something. I don't know what they're doing, but because of that, it's like basically email spamming. And so people that have been reaching out to me, if it's taking me a long time to get back to you, it's because I'm getting a lot of spam in my email. And so I'm kind of digging through emails. But I definitely did get back to a young lady or a young man. I don't know who it was, because they just gave me their initials in regards to the tiny home community. So hopefully you got that information that I sent over to you that you asked me for. David said, I get those too. Yeah, I get a lot of spam emails. I don't know why. Thanks so much, Divine, for your education, and everyone for their participation and engagement. It's awesome to hear from everyone. Yes, thank you, Lang. It is definitely awesome, and I appreciate everyone participating in the conversation. This is the reason why I jump on here to do so. And I will see you guys next Sunday. Have a wonderful week. And if it's going to rain and where you're at, stay safe and stay dry. All right, and warm. Okay, take care, you guys.